And so what Professor Michael Quay did was really seen as a revolution. You know, different from all the other speakers and taking the position that members could pass bills and members took the challenge. In the first year, the bill was passed. And as I told you, we now have 8 under consideration in Parliament. And they are dealing with very, very important areas of our lives, right? Particularly prison reforms and other things, you know, to make things better. I intend, and I'm doing that, and I'm continuing with it, but deepening further the relationship between Parliament and civil society, the media, and we'll be holding meetings. And I think this week we have another meeting where we sit down and look at all the weaknesses of Parliament and get them, particularly your dean and others who are very supportive, for us to try to fill in some of these gaps. And I'm trying to formalize it by establishing a citizens bureau, and that will ensure the accreditation of selected civil society actors and media personnel in specialized fields with some type of expertise to bring about better development outcomes as we transact our business. I also intend to make sure that Parliament is felt throughout the social strata, not only at the national level. If you look at the other arms of government, in the executive, you have regions, and you have regional minister. Then you have district chief executives. Then we say these central structures, even up to unit committees. The judiciary will have from Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, High Court, Circuit Court, Magistrate Court, up to the village level. Parliament is only in Accra. That is all, just hanging there. What are our roots? Instead of them perhaps giving us even the district assemblies, these are junior parliaments that we should take them up and strengthen them. We groom them, we mentor them to understand how to govern at that level. We've not been given that mandate. And that is why I'm very, very keen on getting the constituency offices constructed for members. And at that level, you'll be able to have budgets to have your staff, both partisan and non-partisan staff. So as for employment opportunities, they are bound everywhere. It's just the leadership that can create these initiatives and let our heart be where our mouth is. That is the challenge that we have. If we are able to do that, then at the regional level, we get a regional coordinating group where we can get offices there for members. Because you have constituency issues and you have regional issues before you get to national issues. And Parliament will have to be positioned in such a way as to address these things. So we are working on that. And to help us do that, we are trying to get this budget office coming into fruition. It was an initiative I made as far back as 2009 for us to enact a budget act. And it hasn't seen the light of day until now. It's almost completed, and it will be debated by the House. So with that kind of system, definitely you're going to have a lot of pitfalls. There are some strengths in it, but there are a lot of challenges in the system. Now, after going through and struggling with all this, the 2020 elections came out with a very different animal from the other parliaments that we know of. What is that animal? Hung parliament. That was the first time many people started hearing about the word hung. Hung parliament is spelled with H-U, not H-A. And that parliament is a new breed, very unique animal, strange one, which we are all still struggling to grapple with. What we have in the House now is made up of 137 members from each party. So NDC 137, MPP 137. Yes, there's an independent member who disagreed with his party, the MPP. He wasn't their candidate. And he contested as an independent candidate. And he won. And he's in parliament. So he's not in parliament as MPP member. He's in parliament as an independent member of parliament. Because of what happened, strangely, he is now the second deputy speaker. By our constitution, you all know that the deputy speakers are two, and both should not come from the same party. Now, I happen to be from a party that did not win the elections. That is the presidency. So even though you have 137, 137, I, from the other side, not a member of parliament, was elected by this 137, 137 to be the speaker of parliament. It's not easy. The speaker is the image of parliament. He's the spokesperson and he's the head of the institution of parliament. As much as I'm called speaker, I'm not supposed to speak because I'm not to participate in the debate on the floor of the House. But I've already told you that I'm the head, I'm the image, and I'm the spokesperson for the institution of parliament. So the person who speaks for parliament is the speaker. The minority leader will speak for the minority group, and the majority leader will speak for the majority group. When we talk about the institution of parliament, it's the speaker who should speak, but the speaker is not also expected to speak. That's the system we have. Then, for our gender, our women, the honorable ladies in the House, is also 20 apiece. The MPP, they have 20 ladies, and the NDC, they have 20 ladies. So this one equally matched. The independent member is from the party, peeled off from the party in power. The speaker peeled off from the party in opposition. And the speaker is being called upon by the option we took as a country to be impartial, not neutral. Impartial in the performance of his duties. He cannot be neutral because he's a citizen. And there's an interest we call national interest. So he must be part of that national interest. So anything that comes to the House, he should be charting the path of what? The national interest, not of any party. So he's not neutral. By handling the balance between the two parties, he must be what? Impartial. And so that is the House we have now, called Hang Parliament. Another very difficult aspect is the fact that we took the sole speakership, sole, individual, after the British model. And so the deputy speakers, until I tell a deputy speaker to preside, he has no power to go and preside. He can't. And parliamentary service, they don't have any role to play. So all the work of administration goes to the speaker. And if I don't put my pen on paper, the staff cannot work. And so when in a day, I receive sometimes between 50 to 100 questions from members, and I have to go through them to be able to make the recommendations. Actually, the recommendations come from their leaders. But for me to give the approval and to admit the questions, either as urgent question or the normal, ordinary question, for the person to read on the floor of Parliament, takes a lot of time. And we have very good materials in the House. And there are very good statements, not just questions, but statements, well-researched statements, And I have to read them to make sure that they conform with the rules of the House and that they will not cause anything on the floor before I also admit them. This is just a small aspect of the work of the Speaker, apart from all the correspondence from all over the world coming to Parliament, and they have to come to a Speaker to be able to work on, to pass through the clerk and go through the other members of staff. So you have this pressure, and you also have to preside in the House. That sole speakership thing is something that we have to look at as a country. I prefer the French model, where they have what they call the corporate or collegiate speakership. You have a speaker and a bureau of a number of deputies, and by law, each deputy is given a function. You just don't depend on the speaker to direct you as to what to do. And so you share the responsibility. So the thinking in 1992 should not be the same as in 2022. We ended up creating autocratic leaders. At the presidency, he's a master of order, he surveys. He appoints everybody except the speaker. Even the Chief Justice is appointed by the president. Definitely Parliament processes, and then they will give approval before the president appoints. So they are all presidential appointees. It's only the speaker that the president doesn't appoint. But even that one, the president plays a role, except I was saved by the bell. He cannot. Because the role he played, he lost out from that role. And then the God's own chosen son became the speaker. So there's a unique opportunity for us to make a difference. There is no majority behind me pushing me to do anything that is untoward. Neither is there any president with executive power breathing over my head to conform to his or her wishes. And so I have the leverage, the liberty to do what I believe is right. But Ghanaians still don't understand it. And so I receive a lot of jabs from some of my colleagues and the rest. Yes, I'm human, and definitely I belong to a party. And I want to see the party win elections. But the purpose of us joining a party is to develop the country. And that should be my objective. What are the things that we do to make sure that Ghana develops? So that is the kind of parliament that we have now. And in spite of all the efforts we are making, because habits die hard, it's still not easy for us to move away from the majoritarianism, where people are used to the minority will have a say, but the majority will have their way. That is what people are used to. That is what Ghanaians are used to. And so when you see the minority trying to hold the government to account, because the government can now not push things through, then people try to say that the minority are obstructionists. That is not the case. It's for them to make sure that the right thing is done. It is also not for them to use that opportunity to frustrate and obstruct government business. So at the end of the day, the minority will say all it has to say. For the people to look at the other side of the coin. I know people always say there are two sides of the coin. No, there are three sides. There are more than two. Only one side, the third side is very tiny, so you don't see it. So in Ghana, we also have three sides, or more than that. Apart from NDC and NPP, the other parties, whether it's Madam Akwadonko, what is it? Okay? What is the party's name? Ghana Freedom Party. A very beautiful name, you see. They are all still there. And so it's more than just NDC and MPP. But what is giving Ghanaians hope is the fact that the perception that Parliament is a rubber stamp was based on our understanding that the majority was always pushing their things through. And the majority, because of the system we have in place, where, as I mentioned earlier on, the president appoints everybody except the speaker. He co-opts everybody. He co-opts everybody into the executive. And so the members of parliament just respond to the request of the president. And they are in the majority. And once they are in the majority, they will always push the things through. That's what Ghanaians are used to. And so now that we have this kind of balanced parliament, the expectations of Ghanaians is to make sure that, hey, the right thing now will be done. Because a lot of things that we did in the past were questionable. Some laws were approved that were written in German that the minister who signed did not understand German. And he came and said that, I don't understand German. But how can you sign something that you don't understand? And that is a professional person, a banker. So Ghanaians are hopeful that this parliament will be able to hold the balance and not continue to be deepening the impression of rubber stamping. That thing about rubber stamping, anyway, even though the people who use it themselves know that in reality, in governance, that's what happens. Because the one on top there is the one that is given the mandate to lead the country. So we have a very great opportunity to make a difference in this country. Whether Ghanaians will have the patience to allow us to do it is another thing. And so throughout, from the first parliament to the seventh parliament, were seen not to be effective. We're just an appendage of the executive. And my colleague, the majority leader, referred to it as the parliament is in the belly of the executive. I don't really think so, but that was what he said. And so we've always been marked down. Laws, yes, plenty of them will pass. Oversight, very weak. Even in West Africa, we are considered almost the last. The Togo Parliament was more effective than us. And then things like value for money, audits, and the rest, we couldn't do anything. But what has even worsened it is the fact that the executive, through their adventure, has even taken many more members, apart from the ministers and deputy ministers. And so you have members of parliament who are in various boards, and there are even some that are heads of boards and chief executives of some organizations. And you all know why this is happening. So the presidents end up co-opting the whole party in parliament to be part of the executive. And so how can you criticize yourself? That is the issue. Again, parliament, even though we approve the budget, after we've approved the budget, to get our own budget released is a very serious challenge. And as the late Peter Alagete said, we always have to go cap in hand, begging the Minister for Finance to release our budgetary allocation. So how can you now hold that person or the executive to account? You are begging the person to even give you your money to survive. And so it's not been easy. It's not just the making of parliament, even though parliament itself is to be blamed. Because as I told you, the speakers, if they were giving some more thought to the concept that we adopted, is the most strongest personality in our constitutional architecture. It's only the speaker that you need 3/4 of members of parliament to vote to remove. Even removing the president is at 2/3 of the votes of members of parliament. So it's a lower percentage. To remove the speaker is a higher percentage, a threshold of 3/4. Very high. So the speaker is very powerful. But how do you get there? It's somebody that will nominate you. And so they are caught. Even the leaders, it's the same problem with them. It's the party, or usually they say the party, but the boss of the party is the president. He has to say yes. And I recall in the fourth parliament, after Honorable Osu Ajapon left, and they had to replace him. He left to become a minister, and they had to replace him. And the next in order was Honorable Oseidu, and he was not meeting the favor of his bosses. Parliament was for some months without a majority leader. It took a lot of lobbying before he was finally given the nod. And then my friend Oseche became his deputy. You know, that is the challenge that we have. And we have to continue with these constitutional reforms. I support it seriously. We have to retune, refine the constitutional framework to make sure that Parliament is positioned to be able to do this work. Now, I've given you a picture of the current situation in Parliament. Not only on the composition, and also the legal framework that we have. And therefore, what do I think the future of our Parliament will be? Well, I'm not a clairvoyant, but there are a few things that has given me an idea of what we should expect the future of Parliament to be. In spite of the fact that Ghanaians decided that they want partisanship, they don't want excessive partisanship. But there's one thing that we haven't gotten right as a country. When you elect a member of Parliament, I gave this lecture in the orientation. What is the mandate of that member of Parliament? Is he going as a trustee of the voter, as I illustrated earlier on? I'm giving my life to you. So the small power that I have as an individual, I'm giving it to you. We all in the constituency, we've given all our power to you. We trust you. Don't abuse that trust. So we'll support you. Go there and fight for us to make our lives better. Or the member of Parliament in Ghana is a delegate of a party. Is he going there on the strength of his party? Well, the process we have is that it's a party that have to sign your form, the General Secretary, before you can file to be a candidate. And you file as a candidate of what? The party. But it is a voter that will vote for you to win the election to come to Parliament. So what is the mandate of the MP? In the other parliaments, the other systems that we usually refer to, executive and parliamentary, if UK is for the party. And that's why the whip system in the UK is strong. The party takes a position, you go against that position, you are expelled from the party. The US is different. You represent the voter, not the party. So they can disagree with their party's position, their government position, vote against it, nothing happens to them. So you have these two major mandates. They are now all coming to the center, like the parties are also doing. Center right, center left, and we're all coming to the center. They are also trying to do that, but it is still, there's clarity in it. If in the US, your constituents say, no, we don't agree with this policy, you dare not go against the position of your constituents. They will vote you out. They have midterm sessions, and they have very short terms, anyway, 2 years, 4 years, you are gone. In the UK, you know, I think one disabled, is a blind parliamentarian, Blankson or so, disagreed with the Labour Party some years ago. They expelled him from the party. Now in Ghana, when you go by the party's position, they say you are what? Huh? You are what? You are partisan. You are partisan. When you follow the position of your constituents, what will the party tell you? You are a rebel, traitor. And then the MPs are caught in the middle. So you get up on the floor, am I going to use my understanding of the issue that is being debated? Or do I have to go and consult my constituents? What they tell me is what I come to say. Or do I go to my party's position? They are not always the same. So that is another challenge that, as a country, we have to look at. And so the excessive partisanship, because of the fact that you have to get the approval of your party to be able to contest, has led us to engage in the practice of what is now referred to as either is my way or the highway. And Ghanaians are not happy with that. They want us to move towards what they refer to as give and take, compromise, dialogue, consensus building. That is what Ghanaians are looking at. And we have not been able to achieve that yet. Particularly in the 8th Parliament, it's even getting worse. But there's no alternative for us in the 8th Parliament. Because if the NDC, we use the word minority because of our standing orders. We are still using the old orders for a new order. And you should have to understand, and that's one of the areas I'm going to talk about, how we have to speed up the revision of our standing orders. We are still using the old order. In fact, like when Justice Annam became Speaker in 1993, the standing orders we had were the 1979 standing orders. It was difficult navigating his way. By being a judge, he managed. Until 1995, we did a revision. Then in the year 2000, we improved upon it. Since the time of Peter Alajeti from 2002, we've been trying to revise the standing orders. As of today, we have not succeeded in doing that. But now we have a new parliament, and we are still applying those old orders. And sometimes I can see the expression on the faces of my members of parliament that they disagree with me. But my understanding of the rules that we have is what I have to apply, which is not sometimes applicable in some situations. So we have to do a lot. Ghanaians are not happy with the excessive partnership, the patronage politics, the clientelism that we have in governance, and they want to see a change. Again, Ghanaians are not happy because of the mob action of the majority, and decisions are taken in a very hasty manner, and therefore they want reason to prevail, to stop the hasty decisions, the unusual decisions, and to let Parliament take decisions that are in the best interest of the people. The Ghanaians are not happy because of the tension in the body politics, and they want to see a change. Now, I think that all of us are trying to look for our own security. And it's happened in Nigeria now. Nobody listens to state security. Almost all, if you can do it, you have to get your own police, you have to get your own army, you have to get your own thing to protect yourself. You cannot rely on the state security agencies there. It's creeping over to Ghana now. So when you hear me shouting and ordering that the Committee of Parliament should investigate, even from 1993, there's a reason why I'm doing that. It's not all of us that can provide. I'm lucky, by virtue of my position, I can get it. So these tensions, these challenges are a great worry to the Ghanaian. And I just want to refer to an article written by one Canadian legislator called Richard Stark. And the article is The Rise of Partisanship and How It Paralyzes Parliaments. What he says is that, but we have to remind ourselves that the vast majority of the population, the people we are elected to serve, don't live in the political world. They live in the real world. They live in a world where every conversation does not turn to confrontation, where common solutions are sought, where there is give and take, and where plans are made that extend beyond the next election cycle. And because they don't see those behaviors in our political world, many have grown frustrated, disillusioned, and disconnected from our world. Does this ring a bell in Ghana? And so he proposed 3 ways of us solving this. The first he said is that we should let each member of parliament treat his colleague as a brother or sister. They should engage in interactions. And then we'll be creating these opportunities for you to be meeting quite often, chatting together. You always see the differences between the former members of parliament, or I should say the continuing members of parliament, and the new members of parliament. The new members of parliament, when they even come, they don't greet their opponents. It takes time before the ice will break. But the continuing members of parliament, they come, they will meet each other, they hug each other, and then they are moving together. And what you may not know is that they have better halves from both sides. Better halves, not the way you understand it. So we'll try and see what we can do in that direction to get them more often together. And some of the travels we do is just for that purpose, for you to meet outside. And that time you are outside, you are not representing your party. You are representing your country. And I recall in 2002, when I went with the late Peter Lajete and others to Nigeria, and I was always with them. That time, Papa Nkommo was the majority leader. Because J.H. Mensah lasted just 1 year. And then they called me and said, but you introduce yourself as the minority leader. You are in the opposition in Ghana. I said, yes. But you are always moving with the majority leader and the speaker. I said, yes. Are you sure you are opposing them? I said, oh, I'm opposing them seriously. I said, look, man, you can't bring this. When we won the elections in 2008, I was back there. This time, majority leader. I said, I'm not majority leader. I said, what? Yeah, I won. I told you I was opposing them. You say I wasn't opposing them. But the other time they asked me, they said, look, you said you belong to the Rollins party. I said, yes. I said, so you sat there and allowed the opposition to take away power from you. I said, please, we're not even sitting. We're standing. He said, it will never happen. In Nigeria, it will never happen. So when Jonathan lost the election, I was called to come and take them for a workshop. How did we do it in opposition? It was if never been in opposition. And I went to go and share experiences with them. I said, but you said it will never happen. Nobody can stop change. It will happen when it will happen. It's just like how you cannot stop death. No, you can't. It's just like how God cannot change. So it's the same. So when you are in power, and you think that you have it, please, you've got nothing. It's a mirage. It will soon slip out of your hand. So we're trying to do this, and we'll make conscious effort to elevate the level of debate on the floor. And I must say that members are very good at it. When really they get the opportunity to contribute in debates, we get quality inputs from members. And then we create opportunities for them to always sit down to discuss. And then I keep on insisting on decorum in the house. Decorum. But I want to add to the fact that we also need to reach out to our parties and party activists. We are not leaders for nothing. They don't know what I'm telling you today. So they sit there and all what they know is their party. Don't allow the party activists to lead us. Then you are not a leader. You definitely listen to them. You take their inputs, but you have to take the decision and you hold yourself responsible. If you allow our party activists to be leading us, then we have no business being in politics. It's not only political leaders, even civil society leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders, we are all losing out. And we have to come back on board and take the leadership mantle. We should also try to assist, not just Parliament, but particularly the members of Parliament. They need a lot of support to build up their capacity, to be able to claw back the lost image, to be trustworthy, to take the country forward. Now, we have not been asserting that we are independent, but the system of governance uses independence as just a concept. It's not a reality. But the three arms of government should be able to work together to deliver the goods and services to the people. So you cannot operate in isolation. But there's the governance structure, and the last lecture that was given by the Dean and Co on the political question, the doctrine of political question, was one of the tools that were used to try and get this to work together. And so we have to be looking at our parliament in the future in the following terms. My advice to the members of parliament, before I get to this, is what Sir Sri Ram Nath Kovind of India told the two houses of parliament in India in June 2019. What he said was this: my advice to all MPs is that you should always remember the fundamental mantra of Gandhiji. He had said that every decision of ours should be guided by its impact on the poorest and the weakest person in the society. You must also remember the voter who, setting aside all his work and overcoming his difficulties, went to the polling station to cast his vote and discharge his responsibilities towards the nation. Your priority should be to fulfill his aspirations. This is to the members of parliament. Before we can be any different from the perception of Ghanaians, there are two reforms we have to carry on. I've referred to one already. I just will mention it and go on. That is the standard orders. We need to update them. We need to improve upon them. We need to make sure that they are streamlined in such a way that they reflect the current state of parliament and democracy in the world, and also they are receptive to emerging technology. This issue about quorum in the House will not arise if we use the appropriate technology. We know it. The second one is what we are doing now too. We haven't completed. Put some institutional arrangement in the House to be able to attract the needed expertise and technical support that we need. The Budget Office will be created immediately we pass the Budget Act. The Budget Act, we've consulted almost all stakeholders, and it's now ready to be laid in the House for this. If we are able to do these key ones, then the future of Parliament will become clear. And what I see the future of Parliament in Ghana's democratic governance, I see Parliament as a driver of change to open, participatory, inclusive, and accountable government, responsive to the needs and aspirations of the people. Parliament will be the catalyst to a democratic governance that we can all trust. That is what I see our Parliament being in the future. And accountability here, I'm not just talking about financial accountability. I mentioned earlier, I'm talking about the accountability of the trust that we're giving to you. The trust is not only this. You know, in the Constitution, we always say that the President holds this thing in trust for the people. All our minerals, we give them to a President. Our land, we give them to a President. We have to hold the President to account for the use of those resources. So it's not only monetary, it's not financial accountability alone. We have to. We are giving our hope to you. We are relying on you. What have you done with that? You know? And we allow the President to appoint everybody. And at the end of the day, the President disappoints everybody. Then we lick our wounds and then try to make a change. When we talk about inclusive, we're not talking about only geographical constituencies where each region has representatives. No. We're talking about social inclusion. We talk about economic inclusion. We talk about gender inclusion. It's a disgrace that the model of democracy in Africa still have 14.5% women representation in Parliament. Complete. And when we meet many of our colleagues in the other countries, they are far ahead of it. About 12 countries now in Africa are above 30% women representation in their Parliament. And we who claim to be the model of democracy in Africa, 14.5%. We must put some system in place to be able to attract our better halves to be in Parliament. We can't carry the load alone as men. We are not capable. We should not behave like the proverbial, I shouldn't say it. I was trying to talk about Nkommo Wo Ho, but since you say I shouldn't say it, I will say it. You can't carry it, and you don't want anybody to assist you to carry it. What kind of behavior is this? So we have to change as a people, and I will recommend that in this direction, we try to treat the winner-take-all model to one of the variants of the proportional representation. In doing that, there's a quota that will allow the women to fill through election. They will have to elect. Will allow the youth to elect youthful leaders to be in Parliament. Will allow the leaders, civil society leaders, traditional leaders, spiritual leaders, who I refer to as the true leaders of the people. The people in the villages respect their chiefs and reverends and pastors better than us, the politicians or even the president. Don't they? So they are the true leaders. They respect the chiefs more than they respect the president. And when the reverend father goes to say that kneel down, they do so. Even if they say, cane me, they will give themselves to the reverend to cane for them to achieve something. It means they believe in them. They respect them. Yeah, we brought in the system that have cut them all off. And so a young man that has managed to go to UK, he's been working there for some years, saved some money, maybe mortgage house. After he's finished paying the mortgage, he hears that his constituency, they are looking for MP. He will take the mortgage house and sell, collect money and come to a constituency and use the money, and then they vote for him. Then he comes to Parliament, and he's supposed to be the leader of the constituency he doesn't know. When he fails, and his party wins, they make him DC. So he becomes the chief of the chiefs in the area. What kind of system is this? It doesn't work that way. It is not developmental oriented. We have to look at it. If you go to Botswana, they have a different system where the chiefs are doing representation. And you know, Botswana is one of the least corrupt countries in the world. In the world, not Africa, in the world, they are always ranking around second or third, not first, but at least second. Ghana's position, I don't know. If not because of such a system, by this time, Sierra Leone would have been in big trouble. Well, when Sierra Leone did their last election, 2018, the president's party is a minority party. The majority party, with plenty of members in parliament, are in opposition. Now, how could the president function in a system like ours? But because there is a window for these kind of true leaders to be in parliament, so they were handling the balance. And they came to me to share my experiences with them, how I became a minority leader, how I became a majority leader, how I was able to do this and that, which I did. And they went back, and through electoral conflicts and court cases and the rest, they managed to change the system. And now it's working a bit better. I was there last week. So we need, as a country, to look at all these things. We don't need to follow our masters, colonial masters, blindly. They have even changed now. And so when I even change my costume, my robe in parliament, I hear some people grumbling, and somebody even called me to say that it's more elegant to wear the gown than the traditional wear I've been putting on. I said, where do you come from? This world, if you don't like yourself, nobody will like you. If you treat yourself like a leaf, a goat will eat you. And so I want to recommend to the House that we just simply have to turn our ways. We have to change to be able to get the trust of the people. We have to link up with government and insist that policies get our inputs, and the Budget Act will give them that opportunity, so that when they come with the budget, we are part of the formulation of the budget. We are part of the people to decide the priorities for each year before it is brought up for approval. At that time, our ladies seated here will be able to go out and explain to ladies that in this budget, this percentage of the budget will go to benefit women. Each member should be able to tell the youth and children that a percentage of this budget is coming to benefit the women, the youth, and the children. You should be able to tell your constituents that in this budget, this is the amount that will benefit the constituency. As we sit today, which MP can do that? No. So how can you represent the people? Somebody is dictating everything through. Even you, when you want your own money, there's a big problem. Today we couldn't sit early because of printing problems. Our machines were down. We couldn't print the votes and proceedings and the rest. And when you say it, they say it's not true. If we are able to do this, Parliament will be able to change the perception of Ghanaians. In fact, in the corruption index that CDD did recently, I think between 2002 to 2019, Parliament was adjudged the third most corrupt institution in the country. We had that unenviable third position only behind the police and the judges. And so we need to do something. If we are able to do that, I can forecast that Parliament will be recognized as one of the most powerful conduits for transmission of efficiency and effectiveness in the provision of services. Parliament will be seen as the sprinter that can rekindle the dying embers of citizens' trust in the democratic experiment.